The goal is to make something that looks like this. The first thing we're going to need to do is to learn how to move by holding down the scroll wheel on your mouse and dragging. You can rotate around your screen like so. Here we can move around in three-dimensional space. You can also go up to this colorful thing here and click and drag and move it around, but I prefer using the scroll wheel. To move side to side, hold down the Shift key on the keyboard, and then again with the middle scroll wheel, click and drag. To move closer, we'll simply scroll with the scroll wheel. Get comfortable with that for just a moment and make sure that you understand how to move around in the scene. The next thing we're going to do is to learn how to select and delete objects. If I click on this cube right in the middle and I hit the delete key, nothing will happen. To delete an object, you will have to hit the letter X. You will notice that when you do, a little menu pops up and you can click delete. Let's go ahead and delete this camera object. Click X, delete, and delete the light. That's X, delete. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add in a plane. We do that by going to Add, Mesh, Plane. This is going to be like our floor. Go ahead and add the mesh now. That's Add, Mesh, Plane. Once the plane is in our scene, click it. Make sure that it has that golden, orangish, yellowish highlight. And we're going to make it larger. To do that, we're going to type the S key on our keyboard. S is for scale. Once we hit the letter S, we can move our mouse to the right or to the left, and it will get bigger or smaller. Go ahead and make it a bit larger. We are going to add a cube. I go to Add, Mesh, Cube. Just watch for a moment. If you were to click the letter G, G will move an object anywhere. It might look like right now that this box is sitting on the plane, but if I rotate, you'll see that it's not. This gets pretty tricky in three-dimensional space. Let's talk about something we can use to help. I want you to come up here over where this guy is. There's a little arrow popping out. Go ahead and click it, and this thing comes out. The shortcut is N on your keyboard. N. Once it's out, if you have an object selected, so it has that golden area around it, you can actually change its location here. If I make it 0, 0, 0, you'll see that it's back to where it started. To move it up so it's exactly on the plane, we're simply going to go to the Z line and type in 1. You'll now see that it is on the plane. One more time, click on your cube, make sure that X and Y are 0, and make Z equal to 1. Click on your cube and come over here to the right. Now here we have lots of different menus that we can access. The one that has color and that will let us change shaders is what we call them, is this guy right here. So go ahead and click on this little circle-y thing. Go to where it says New, click it, and then where it says Base Color, go ahead and choose a color. I'm going to go ahead and choose a red color. Go ahead and click off. You might notice that it's not red. To get that color active, we're actually going to come up here and change the way we're viewing it. So here's a wireframe preview. Here's a super basic preview. Go one over to this guy. Now, don't be confused. We'll get to this one in a moment, but we're going to need to mess with the lighting before we do that. So just click on this guy right here, and now we have the color red working. Go ahead and do that now. We need to change a couple of physics properties. Click on the cube, and then go over to the Physics tab, which looks like a circle and then another circle orbiting it. Right here, looks like this guy right here. Click it, and then click on Rigid Body. We're going to turn both this and the plane into a rigid body. You should have the cube selected. Click Rigid Body, and it's active. That's just great. We're now going to click on the plane. We're going to click rigid body, but the plane we're going to make passive. You want the plane to be passive. Let me explain why. We're going to take eventually this cube, and if we were to raise it and we were to hit spacebar and play, you'd notice that it lands on this plane. If the plane, however, is an active body, then when you hit play, they both fall. And that's not going to do us any good. So we want the plane to be something that can interact with the cube, but we do not want the plane to fall in this world of emptiness. So we're going to make, one more time, click the plane, make sure it is passive. The box, however, we want to be active under rigid body. So go ahead and do that now. To duplicate an object, I'm going to click on the object and then hold down the Shift key and click the letter D for duplicate. You'll notice now I have another copy of it. But I don't want to just move it somewhere random. I want to lock this on this red line. I just want to move it on this red line. Now, the red line is the X line. You can see that right here where it says X. So once you hit Shift D and make your duplicate, click the letter X, and it will lock the object on the X axis. In fact, you can see up here that as I move, the X is changing number right here. See how it's moving? Let's go ahead and move it just next to it. Then left click to lock it in place. Make sure it doesn't overlap. There should be a little bit of space there. Hit Shift D, and I want to move it, but I'm going to click X so it locks on that axis. Shift D, X. Let's put this one over here. Lock it there. That's great. And Shift D, X, and let's put this guy here right there. So now I have 5 on the bottom, and they're all a little bit separate, and they're all perfectly aligned. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. It's fantastic. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put a box above these. We're going to put 4 boxes above these 5 boxes. So go ahead and click on a box and hit Shift D. It's now duplicated, but this time, instead of hitting X, we're going to go ahead and hit Z. It's going to move it up. Now you can see that if we move it up and we want to put it pretty close to the top of that box, you'll notice if I click that Z-axis is almost exactly 3. Well, it's because 3 is exactly the top of the box. So go ahead and click on that Z and type in 3. And now you know that that box is perfectly on top of the other one. But we also want to move it over. So go ahead and click G. That's going to move it. And then click X and move it over. And left click. You can then hit Shift D and X to move this one here. Shift D, X. Shift D, X. Beautiful. At this point, see if you can build the rest of the tower yourself. Come back and watch the rest as soon as you're finished.